So yeah, so we're actually thrilled that we upgraded our combines here. Last year was the first year that we had our 740s. So we've got two 740Ts with rear wheel assist, thank goodness. Like the footprint is nice and wide, and that's going to be great this year just because of how rough the fields are going to be. That rear wheel assist is really nice. It definitely cuts the size of the ruts down big time. And so then it's way less work to fill all those ruts in. It was a pretty rough year for us at the farm during the fall. So it was pretty wet, and we had a lot of stuff going on at the seed plant. And then my uncle Alex had a lot of stuff going on at his farm management accounting firm. And so then we ended up getting a custom guy in. And so he had a 780. And so then going behind the 780 and looking at his grain loss relative to ours, it was night and day. And so then I also have NDVI imagery of the volunteer crop growth right after harvest. And if it's bad enough for the NDVI to pick up, it's pretty substantial. And so then that was probably the biggest reason why we wanted to switch. The combines that we have were getting long in the tooth. And that coupled along with the fuel efficiency as well. Like the 780 was as big as our big combine by engine size. I would argue not by cleaning capacity, but by engine size, it would be a similar machine. And the fuel economy, like especially now, fuel's a fortune now. So the fuel economy now is a big thing. But the biggest thing was a grain loss. And so that was probably the biggest reason why we transitioned. The small seed grain loss savings that we're gonna save this year alone will pay for a significant portion of our combine payments this year. Just the grain loss alone. And so to go from where we've run the combines that we've had for the last 20 years to go from, okay, well, we've done this 30 times to being completely different. It's a little bit overwhelming, but at the same time, the dealer that we've been working with is pretty good at walking us through some of the processes to make things a little bit easier. So we're not spending 20 hours to do a 5-hour job. So we found that quite valuable as well. The nice thing about the cruise pilot, I suppose, is you don't have to be on the spot all the time. Like if you're like, if it's right after lunch and you're ready to go, you got the hammer down, you've got the coffee full, the cruise pilot isn't that big of a deal. But then if it's 9 o'clock at night and, you've had a bit of a day, the cruise pilot is getting you some more acres done in a day for sure. And of course, acres add up. So that's huge. The CMO side of things, same thing. If you've got a seasoned guy in the seat, you're paying attention all the time, you're looking at the sample, it's not going to be the biggest return for you. But I don't know of a single operator who's with it every day, all day. It just doesn't exist. It just doesn't happen. So yeah, it's those times where it really makes a difference. And then at the very least, if one of the machines has CMOS, you can get on the radio and say, hey, speed your rotor up or slow it down, open your concaves up, whatever. Like just getting one of those, and again, you still got to pay attention, but it's better than nothing. And like if you can get 3 combines down to 2, like that's huge. Yep. You're getting a lot more acres done a day. It's costing you less money. It's the way to go.
Yeah. So Carl, I noticed from your other brand, you had 2 different sizes of combines, and you've recently went to the same size of CLAAS combines. What was the reason for the change?
The nice thing with having the same machines is they all start having the same weak points and stuff like that. And so then, if that the front rotor drum bearings are prone to go, if you did this one last year, maybe you should do this one this year. It just, and parts, same thing. You don't have to get a different parts book. You don't have to look you don't have to look up different protocols for changing stuff, different service intervals, all that kind of stuff. And like the service interval, same thing. It's nice when, you zero out a machine, the 10-hour grease nipples are the same, all that kind of stuff. It just makes for a lot more of an efficient day. So one of the nice things as well is, so like we farm river lots, so a lot of our fields are long and narrow, which means the combines can get pretty far away from the trucks. And so then having two machines that are matched up, you know, the cart driver doesn't have to be, you know, a genius or an F1 driver to keep up, right? So both combines are going to be traveling the same speed. They both have the same horsepower, so it doesn't really matter what the conditions are like. They're going to be traveling close together instead of slowly getting further apart.
It's always nice to hear of a competitive customer switching over, and definitely to get the details of why. And we like to think every time we promote the Lexington Combine, it's always three things: capacity, grain savings, and fuel. So I think you hit the nail on the head for all of those factors, especially, I mean, canola is like the big crop in Western Canada. That's a moneymaker, and not all machines can save that small seed, and that's where we pride ourselves. And I think we're always one of the first when we've done demonstrations or help setting up customers. We've always used the drop pan to actually set the combines and know what you're throwing over, whether it's bushel plus or sure grain. And actually, we've always done a good job to set the combine because we know we can do it. And that is huge. And then secondly, fuel. It wasn't always a topic, but you're right, more and more with the cost of it, it's huge. It's a big cost of the farm. And if you can get a machine that does as good or better job and save a big fuel bill, 30% better on fuel, that's important as well. And same thing, we always get some customers are a little bit turned off when they're looking at a CLAAS combine, just because if you look under the shields, there's more moving parts, right? But there's more moving parts because every other combine either has two rotors or a single rotor that does the threshing and separation. So we have separate threshing components where you can fine tune to get optimal threshing. Once that's done, then you can fine tune the rotors to do the separation process. So you can truly fine tune it. And I bet if we have this call next year, after you have 2 seasons under your belt and 2 winter works, you would say, actually, this is pretty easy to work on.
We just got the reports back here. So we just got back from Ag West here, I don't know, a couple hours ago. And then we're going to chalk off what we want to get done, and then we're going to get Ag West to do the rest. But so we've been pretty happy with them so far. This year will be a pretty big test as far as, you know, their ability to go through mud and all that stuff.